ABA State Delegate, Connecticut.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I had known Monty was going to get so much applause, I would have gone first. Fellow delegates, it's not very often you get to hear from a state bar association. And from a small state like Connecticut, let's be honest, I think it's even rarer, and I think none of us can remember offering a resolution to this body. So why now? Why us? Well, Monty was telling the story in part of the story of St. Louis, but I'm going to tell it from a different perspective, from my perspective. Years ago as a kid, I learned about the St. Louis. Let me tell you a little bit more about it because it has particular relevance to where we are sitting here today. Briefly, in May of 1939, a ship of nearly 1,000 people, mostly Jews from Germany, made their way to Havana, Cuba. They had applied for US visas and had planned to stay in Cuba only so they could enter the United States. At the time, there were increased protests about immigration, claiming incoming Jews were quote-unquote communists. The Cuban government refused to admit them, and there were those in the United States who asked for expedited approval of these well-publicized travelers. The State Department and the White House refused. A State Department telegram to a passenger on the ship said passengers must wait their turns on the waiting list. Following the U.S. government's refusal to permit the passengers to disembark, they sailed so close to the United States that they saw the lights of Miami. From where we are sitting right now, you could have seen the ship. Imagine what it must have been like to be a passenger on the ship, knowing that freedom was so close and yet so far away. Hundreds of those people on that ship died in the Holocaust, doomed to die in concentration camps when they had to return back to Europe. As a kid, and then frankly even as an adult, I never really understood how it happened. How did we let refugees, people in need of our help, just return to die at the hands of the Nazis? Where were the lawyers? And yet I found myself asking that same question a week ago Saturday. After conferring with some people in Connecticut, we realized that this was our issue of our time, and we couldn't shy away from it, frankly, no matter how difficult it was to pull a resolution together in about a week. So we looked to ABA policy, and my review of the Green Book showed surprisingly a lot of resolutions on immigration. But as it turns out, there wasn't a lot on refugees. So I called the Government Affairs Office, and my sincere thanks to Christy Gaines of the Government Affairs Office, who on Sunday, a week ago, got on the phone with me and we talked through the issues and figured out how Connecticut could best help. And indeed, the last resolution on this issue or on refugees was way back in 2006 at the Midyear meeting then, and it was part of a 7-part series from the Commission on Immigration. The resolution on refugees was actually designed to tackle an application process there, something that seems somewhat trite at this time. So it's appropriate to not only update and reaffirm that policy, but expand it and address the issues that we are likely to see going forward. Our hope is that by setting broad policy on refugees and others deserving of humanitarian refuge, that we can discuss these issues at ABA Day. We'll also provide the ABA with guidance and give our leaders direction that they should go on. The resolution has 3 aspects that hopefully you all have seen, but the main points are that we provide legal protection for those refugees, that we provide sufficient funding for refugees who spend nearly 18 to 24 months of their lives stuck in refugee camps, waiting after screening after screening after screening for them to be admitted here. I note that the resolution doesn't address those screening processes. In the words of Hillel, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? If not now, when? Fellow delegates, our when is now, and I ask your support of Resolution 10B. Thank you.